Janeiro. I'm actually in Barra Tijuca, which is right outside of the Copacabana region, but pretty much still within it. So if you ever look at a map of Rio de Janeiro, like Rio de Janeiro, Rio first of all is a state, and Rio de Janeiro is like the capital city. And the main attraction and what most people know to be Rio de Janeiro is Copacabana. And there's a few other towns or micro cities, or like probably towns or neighborhoods that fall into that Copacabana, the greater Copacabana area. And those neighborhoods are Copacabana, obviously, Leblon, Ipanema, and Barra Tijuca. So right now I'm in Barra Tijuca, so it has kind of like this nostalgia. So it has kind of like this nostalgia to it of being like a luxury neighborhood or something along those lines. It's a little more quiet, it's a little more subdued than the main Copacabana area. But it's pretty cool. This is the first time that I'm actually staying in Barra Tijuca. I stayed in Copacabana, which I don't really like too much. It's a little older, not so renovated, a little more busy. Not all the neighborhoods so far, I like Leblon the best because it's like Copacabana, and then next to Copacabana is Ipanema, and then a little further, I would think south, along the coast, a little further south, I believe is Leblon, and then south of Leblon is Barra Tijuca. I feel like Leblon has the right mix of quiet but close enough to the tourist zone. Ipanema as well. If I was gonna rebook and stay here, I'd most likely rebook or look for spots in Leblon first, then Ipanema, then Barra Tijuca, and then last on the list would be the Copacabana region. Now, I came out to Brazil because I really like it here. The first time that I came was in January of 2019, and immediately it's a place that captured me. 50,000. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at prices because I actually came down here not to buy in this region, but I came down here to buy in either like Ilha de Cabo, Cabo Frio, or Búzios. So I would think maybe for like a studio apartment, older building, you might be able to pull it off for 50,000 because that's going to be about 200,000 to are listed at that price. So it's possible. Is it going to be a newer building? Probably not. Is it going to be the best accommodations? Probably not. It's going to be most likely a studio to one bedroom, and it's more likely to be a few blocks in from the beach. And by a few blocks, I might different price points and being able to set the expectations for what you can afford here in Brazil. But $50,000 can get you a lot. I know that in Búzios, in Ilha de Cabo, in the places I've been looking at, $50,000 can get you into a two-bedroom house or into a condominium that's not the newest, but has like modern amenities and feels good, and it's not like a far departure from what you might come to expect in the United States. Yesterday, I was in Sao Paulo for the day. My YouTube buddy, Yusuf Watif, he has a channel here on YouTube, and we did an interview way back, maybe like peak coronavirus. We did a collaborative video where we talked about what it's like to invest in Italy, what it's like to live abroad, what is driving me or what piques my interest in investing in other countries, because he's permanently living in Brazil. He's lived in 15 different countries, and Brazil he's been in for the past 5 years. He's in his early 40s and decided that Brazil is the place that he wants to call home. So since I was coming out here to check out real estate, I thought it would make sense to extend my stay in Sao Paulo and hang out with him for a bit, have him show me exactly what he feels is the draw to Sao Paulo. I also got a chance to interview him, so in about 3 or 4 weeks, expect that interview to come out to upload the video. And that's just a very informal piece talking about what it's like to be an ENTP and how I think and what my view on the world is. It was shot a few weeks ago, and it really gives you some insight into how I think and why I'm looking to invest in in multiple international properties. So look out for that. It should be dropping probably in the middle of while I'm doing this, depending on how this upload goes. But what can I say about my time here in Brazil? Well, for those of you who are watching, I have a 30-day challenge going on, which I believe I'm going to have to reset to day one because I broke the challenge as of Friday. I was having and on Friday I ran in the morning, but my evening workout fell into the time that I was traveling, so I didn't work out on the plane. And then on Saturday morning in Sao Paulo, I did my morning run, and then I went out for dinner and drinks, and I didn't work out Saturday night. Now it takes us to Sunday. I didn't run Sunday morning. I didn't run Sunday morning, and I worked out. I push-ups, sit-ups, that kind of thing in the morning, but I didn't go running. So my entire weekend has been thrown off, and I don't think I could quite catch up in one day to make up for it. So I'm going to keep starting on day one until I complete my 30 days consecutive. That's the only fair thing that I can do. So tomorrow's going to be day one all over again. So if you're watching me or following me on Instagram, you'll see that I'll reset to day one. It's pretty pathetic, but it's what I guess traveling and alcohol will do. They'll throw you off your game a bit. So sorry and forgive me for that. Today, as far as my tip of the day, it's Sunday, so we're not going to really spend too much time talking about work. We're going to talk a little bit about life. And I know that on this Dirty Work series, both on Instagram and here, I might have talked about the necessity to move, the necessity to travel, and to see different things. And every time I am traveling, especially when I travel alone, and I'm forced to be alone, I have time to reflect and to think about myself. And if anybody who's watching this and is enjoying this video so far, please make sure that you like it. Liking videos gets it promoted a little more, and anybody who could benefit from this may see the video rather than it just kind of being kept in the dark pool, more or less. But anyway, when you're traveling alone, you have a lot of time to self-reflect. Really look at yourself and think about what you enjoy, what you don't, and also comparing your life to the lifestyles of others. As much as I like Brazil, there's something about this country that still kind of rubs me the wrong way, and I think it might be what more privileged people in America feel like. Because when I was in Sao Paulo, I saw a big economic gap. And when you're on the positive side of that economic gap, it's easy to put the shutters on and say, well, my life is all right, so I don't want to look at the poverty. I don't want to look at the people living in tents under the bridge. They did something wrong. And life has all these things that you take advantage of. That's what happens in bigger cities. That's what happens to people who have it a little bit better. And when I'm here, I notice that gap, and I find myself in this awkward position of feeling privileged to be born in the United States, privileged to have parents who cared about education, privileged to have had entrepreneurial success, privileged to be part of the top earners in the world, and seeing that there's that imbalance, right? People who look like me, who I could have easily been born into a different environment, who may never get out of their circumstance. It bothers me because I'm the type of person who wants to think I could change the world, and then I look at my position in the world and it's pretty small, and it's like, man, how could I help this man who decided to move from the countryside to Sao Paulo thinking there's economic opportunity, and find out that there's no opportunity for him because he has a second grade education or something along those lines. It bothers me, and it's more apparent here than like an American city. In an American city, it's kind of isolated to certain groups of people in certain neighborhoods, and then to the mentally ill in a metropolitan area. But here, it's kind of scattered throughout, and it kind of, it's a little visceral in a way. But that's the only downside. But at the same time, you have this cool melting pot of people from around the world, all countries represented here, all tones of skin, hair, eye color. It's so cool because you'll see those variations in the people. But if you came from better economic means, you have a better life here. And that's the only downside. But on the positive side, as I said, is people who are here, mixed, loving life, loving each other. And when you get down to Rio, which I'm at now, the energy changes from Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo is like any other major world city. Sao Paulo has 12 million people in the city. And if you were to kind of factor in the greater Sao Paulo area, you might be inching up to 15 million or so. It's a huge city. And Rio de Janeiro is different. It's almost like New York to Miami. You put palm trees up. There's palm trees in Sao Paulo too, but palm trees, white sand, mountains coming to white sand. It's pretty gnarly out here, and the vibe is just different. You know, people jamming to samba on the street, people jamming to funky on the street, drinking. Sunday is family day. Everybody's out trying to make the best of it. And there's something electrifying about it. It feels a whole lot different than Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo feels like a place where you go to work and earn and maybe be a who's who. But Rio de Janeiro is like a place where you come to live. And when you travel and you have that time to like ponder and reflect, you get to actually take notice and make those sort of comparisons. And then also narrow down what's good for you. Me, I'm pretty, I don't know, I'm kind of like in between an extrovert. I guess I would consider myself an ambivert. More often than not, I'm extroverted, but very often I can kind of retreat into myself and be introverted. When I'm in new places and I'm alone, I end up regressing to that introvert because I have to reflect on myself, my thoughts, my feelings, kind of process the environment around me before I get out of my shell. I don't walk into a new environment and just like, hey, here I am. No, it doesn't work like that. For me, I have to like settle in. I inch away. Like today, I might have only gone no more than a quarter mile from my Airbnb accommodations. I walked outside, I walked to the beach, I filmed a little bit, I got a hamburger, some caipirinhas, and I came back home. And that's my process. If I'm in a new place, I inch out, I inch further. Maybe I make a friend. If I make a friend that's worth talking to and hanging out with, then I'll hang out with him or her and kind of go further and further until I'm comfortable. And then once I'm comfortable, I start to like be more extroverted. So that's just who I am. But when you have that time to kind of look within, you start to ask yourself, what is it about this place that really resonates with me or doesn't resonate with me? Where would I rather be? Who would I want to be here with? My family, my friends, my lover, my children, that sort of thing. And you don't necessarily go through that process. At least I don't. when I'm at home in my comfortable environment. I only go through that process when I'm out of my element. And it even forces you to make new friends, people that you may not interact with on a normal basis, because you start to feel lonely, or people kind of sense that you're different, so they want to include you and show you a good time. So really, like I said, traveling and moving into different environments absolutely enriches me in every single way possible. It expands my understanding of international politics, foods, diasporas, how people traveled from one country to the next, whether it was voluntary or the result of war, or involuntary, as was the case in, the slave trade. And not only the slave trade, like the colonial slave trade, but the slave trade that pushed Jews into certain environments, and all kinds of people who were enslaved because they were the minority or they were the conquered people. So when you travel, you get to see all of that, and it gives you just a little more awareness of who you are in the world and what the world really is. So for this installment, that's what I have to say about that. As far as work is concerned, I haven't done much work at all this weekend. I'm going to be working part-time while I'm away. So I'll be doing some work from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. every day. That's just kind of cleaning up emails, diffusing any major problems. But after that, I am content creating and exploring myself, exploring the world, and doing the best that I can with my 38-year-old body. As far as what I'm filming, so I have this idea that is going to either be 3 to 5 videos. So far, I think I have episode 1 down. Episode 1 covers me traveling to Sao Paulo and interviewing Yusuf. Episode 2 is this Copacabana region, right? So Copacabana, Leblon, Ipanema, Barra da Tijuca. Hopefully tomorrow the weather is going to hold up. It's showing that it might rain, but if it doesn't rain, I'll be able to kind of touch into some of the tourist locations here and give a better sense of the vibe and feeling of Rio de Janeiro. And then I'm going to some of the smaller resort towns out of here. And I hope that I can make one episode out of each of those resort towns. Some of the resort towns are pretty small, like Ilha de Cabo and Cabo Frio are like smaller, more laid-back resort towns, so that might get fused into one episode. And then Búzios will definitely be its own episode, because there's enough going on over there for me to make sense of it. And it's going to be kind of in the format of my recent videos, where it's a combination of voiceover, me front-facing from my office, and then the footage that I capture. But I have to say, so far it's pretty good, because this is the first footage that didn't include my new drone. I was giving it a test run at the beach today, and I'm starting to think of how can I incorporate these aerial motion views into videos, and the landscapes here are pretty dope, so that should be featured. I'm gonna try to tie in my love for food, so hopefully I'm able to capture what makes Brazilian food what it is. And then I'm going to be capturing the cost of living, the real estate market here, and the type of properties that I'm looking to buy. So it should be a full, robust series. Hopefully it should air for the entire month of November. I'll probably release one video a week for the month of November. I might have to sneak in some of my Italian videos, because those updates are happening now. So it's going to be fun regardless. But also, I need to make sure that I keep promoting my Killing the American Dream program. Sorry to sound like a salesman, but I got to do it. In November, I'm going to be launching or hosting a webinar on my Killing the American Dream program. All right, it's going to be a live webinar, about an hour's length of time, explaining the 1 to 4 family Killing the American Dream program, and how you can actually invest alongside me and invest and learn. If you are interested in investing in real estate, and I'm going to touch on this now, if you are interested in investing in real estate, and you are interested in potentially leaving the United States or having enough passive income to retire early, or even take the chance of living abroad, it's definitely the program for you. Here in Brazil, you could live a decent life on 2,000 US dollars a month. That's 10,000 reais. You would be living pretty good on 10,000 reais. The average salary here, like minimum wage earner, is going to be about $300. So if you're making 2,000, you're doing pretty damn good. So in that program, I kind of show you ways on how you can invest in real estate and earn a passive $2,000 relatively easily. And that doesn't only extend for Brazil, but extends into Colombia and extends into Italy. Italy, you can do the same on 1,200 euros a month and you'll be just fine. So imagine if you were to bump that up to like 1,800 euros, which would be about that $2,000 mark, depending on how currency is trading, life will be pretty good. So that program is really meant to kind of talk to people who are looking to buy their first home, looking to be real estate investors, and looking to be kind of world nomads where they're earning passive income and they're able to travel the world and live their life with relatively low concerns for how are they going to make money. That's the end of the sales pitch. All right. So if you're interested, make your way on over to entplife.com, pre-register, and you'll get like notifications to when we drop that. I believe it's going to be the first Tuesday of November. And that's pretty much it. So hopefully anybody who's still on, please, I'd love to open it up for some questions. And since I'm only streaming directly from, I don't know what this is called, my cell phone. That's what it's called. I've been drinking a little bit, so my thought isn't so clear. I answered the first question, which was, hey brother, can you buy a property out here for 50,000? My answer is, I think you can. Is this A's? Best ways I should go by to gain additional funding for future business ideas. Thank you, bro. I guess that's you just commenting, but you're welcome. KC, Carl, glad you made it there safely. Of course I made it here safely. Listen, man, if I die in a plane crash, it's either going to be because I crashed my plane or I got extremely unlucky and crashed in a commercial airliner. That doesn't really happen. And most of the time I'm going to get somewhere safely. If I don't, then my card got pulled and it was my turn to go. Natibala 2007 or Natibaya, I don't know. I wonder how to pronounce that. But yeah, you're right. There are many Haitians in Brazil right now. Yeah. The funny thing about Haitians in Brazil is that Haitians fell in love with Brazil during the Pelé era. I don't know how it happened, but that's just what happened. And it depends what generation of Haitian you are. But there's always been an affinity for, I think Haitian people kind of gravitate to all of the other slave nations. And Haiti participated in quite a few revolutions in the colonies. They participated in one in the Dominican Republic. They participated in the liberation of Gran Colombia / Venezuela / Colombia. They fought alongside Simon Bolivar in reclaiming that region of the world. I'm pretty sure there was some engagement with Haitians or some trade between Haiti and Brazil in that time. So yeah, there's a lot of Haitians in Brazil for those political reasons, but also because of that love of soccer or football. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but you go around and you talk to Haitians, they have a special place in their heart for Brazil. And I also think one of the reasons for that is like the genetic connection between people who were imported to Brazil during the slave trade, like from the western coast of Africa, and like Ivory Coast, Ghana, and Haiti. Because if I'm roaming around Brazil and I'm looking at the Afro-Brazilians, a lot of them look like people from Haiti, or a lot of them look like me. And when I look at people from Ghana, a lot of them look like people from Haiti, and a lot of them look like people like me, or Ivory Coast as well. So I think, and then the landscape and climate here in Brazil is very, very similar to that western coast of Africa. So I think because of our genetic predisposition and potentially genetic similarities, and obviously having the same ancestral root, just different colonies, there might be that like familiar feel. It's kind of strange. I was talking about that earlier today. It's like, when I'm in Brazil, I feel like I'm in a place that feels like home. Just climate-wise, people-wise, the vibe, everything feels like I should be here. And there's not that many places that have that strong of an impact on me. And I think it might just be genetics and kind of how things line up. Penny stock investor, you're working on being a nomad. All right, cool. What's holding you back, in your opinion? Love to hear that. I'm looking forward to the program. Hopefully the program isn't just for overseas purchases, investment, or is it? No, man. The program is actually, I don't know what's overseas to you if you're from the United States. The program is actually from the perspective of investing in U.S. real estate. I like the U.S. market because it's all dollarized, and the dollar goes a long way in the international world. So you're able to invest what I would say is relatively small amounts of capital here in the United States, leverage up. You get loan money so much easier here than you would in other countries for real estate. And you're able to leverage up, you're able to get cash flowing assets, you're able to get it in dollars, and then live a life abroad. So the program isn't designed for the weirdos, the weirdos like me and you who are thinking about living outside of the country. It's meant for anybody who's truly interested in investing in 1 to 4 family real estate in the U.S. So that's what it's for. It's not about international properties. My international property, I've only done a few of those. So for me to make a course about that would be ridiculous. I think that would be wrong. I decided to make a course on 1 to 4 family real estate because I've done excessive work in that field for the past 14 years, right? I just started investing internationally within the past 3 years. So it would be wrong for me to try to charge people or influence people on something that's just kind of new to me. I'm still a novice to international investing. And honestly, the international projects I do, I don't even think of them as investments. I think of them as more passion projects or like vanity projects. Gregory Jones, you're welcome for watching. Carl, why Brazil? Are you diversifying your international real estate portfolio? All right, David. Why Brazil? So the majority of my portfolio is in the United States and will continue to be in the United States. I'll grow my portfolio mostly in the US, again, because right now the dollar is still king. The dollar is still the international standard for trade. I will continue to invest in the US as long as that is the case, because I'm essentially hedging my income against inflation throughout the world. For example, when I came to Brazil for the first time in 2019, January 2019, the real, which is the Brazilian currency, was trading for 4 reais for $1, 4 to 1. All right. Now it's at 550 to 1. That's about a 33% devaluation in currency. So my dollar that was buying me 4 reais or whatever 4 reais could get is now buying me what 5.5 reais could get, and their currency hasn't fluctuated. I'll give you a better example. I went down to the beach today. You know how much I paid for my cheeseburger on the beach? 13 reais. How many dollars is that? $2.50 for a hamburger at a beachside restaurant. That hopefully that puts into perspective how much things cost. If I went further down to Copacabana, where dudes were selling caipirinhas on the beach, I'd get a 750 milliliter caipirinha on the beach for 5 to 10 reais, right? Which is $1 to $2. So I invest in the United States really to kind of control my money, because the economy here is more stable, and the international stuff is really because of what I like. Brazil, I like the people, I like the culture, I like the landscape. It's a freaking huge country. It's about the size of the continental United States, and it's mostly Amazon jungle, tons of rivers, tons of waterfalls, miles and miles and miles of coastline, borders Uruguay, Argentina, Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname. It's a major player in the world, 200 plus million people. So for me, I just think that there's a lot of potential here. I'm not investing here looking for like appreciation in capital. I'm investing here because it's a place that I would like to rest my body for some time, that I would like to live for some time, that I want my kids to see, because it has a sense of uniqueness that I haven't seen in too many other places in the world. Like I said, the diversity of people, the language. There's more Portuguese speakers here in Brazil than in the main country, Portugal, right? Just like in England, there's more English speakers than in England. But it's one of those things. Like, so what happened after the colonization? 200 million people can tell you their story. So that's why Brazil, from a financial standpoint, it seems cheap to me. Maybe the AI slips to 10 to 1, but never in my lifetime has it been 5 that I've been paying attention. It's been 5 to 1. It's been 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1. Around the Olympics, it went back down to 2. So 5 to 1 is kind of like out of the range of normal. Could it continue to devalue? Maybe. I hope not. But I think right now things are pretty cheap, and I'm going to take advantage of that. Suzette Laws. Suzette, how are you? Welcome. If there's any more questions, please let them rip now, because I'm about to close out. It's 35 minutes in. But if there's no questions, then I won't stick around. Sim, eu falo o idioma, eu falo português pouco, mas preciso praticar mais, porque agora eu falo ruim. But I started to learn the language. The first time I went there, the language is so bizarre to me. Even someone who learned French, someone who's been exposed to Spanish, when I heard Portuguese, it was freaking foreign, even though it's a Romance language. In learning it now, it follows the same rules. I understand it a whole lot better. I can read it a whole lot better. But listening to it versus speaking it and interacting with it, it's a lot different than the other Romance languages. But I'm learning that language, and I really like it. Okay, why haven't? That's a good question, David. Why haven't they moved forward with such a robust population? I want you to think about that for a while. You have a nation that was a slave colony that, up until about 100 years ago, wasn't even allowed by decree, by law, to have a university in the country. So, how can a country move forward if the people are being deprived of education? No different than in the United States. You had a large population of slaves who were brought to that country. Their sole purpose was to work, to earn money on them. The objective wasn't to educate them. The objective wasn't to integrate them into the society. And it was the same thing here up until the early 1900s. So you have this huge population of undereducated people, and then you have this culture of, like a lot of the European countries, you have this culture of extreme government corruption. So the government robs the people, the government robs the country, the government, people who ascend into the leadership roles aren't there to organize the country for economic gain. They're there to personally gain. It's a big problem throughout South America, Central America, the Caribbean, corruption. Spain, Portugal to this day, Italy, same freaking issues. Major corruption in politics and poor leadership. What's funny, I was hanging out with a guy from Scotland, and we were talking about England. And I can honestly say that the English model for colonialism has proven to be the best model for our current capitalist global economy. Because if you look at the countries that England has colonized, the United States, Canada, Australia, these English-speaking major big colonies structurally are sound. The governments are far less corrupt, and there's even like laws built into those countries that hedge or kind of limit the ability for corruption to emerge. There's corruption in the United States. People do take money under the table, but it's not as blatant as it is in South America. In South America, it's almost like it's understood that there's a corruption tax or a corruption fee. Like, oh, you want this development to happen? Are you going to pay me? It's going to cost you for me to, stamp this deal and approve it without it necessarily going through the right channels of approvals. Somebody will stamp it into effect because they're going to economically gain. So I think Brazil being a slave colony, Brazil having laws that restricted people from seeking education, and the fact that it was settled by the Portuguese. Portugal isn't doing too well economically now, so they didn't really have a good handle on that. Is why Brazil's the way that it is. But it has tons of natural resources. It has tons of low-cost workforce. It's a matter of leadership completely changing and remobilizing the workforce to compete on the world stage, and hopefully there not being any pushback. I think, first of all, Brazil is the largest South American country, economy in numbers. So they could be the provider. First of all, Brazil provides two-thirds of the world's animal proteins. It's a real fact. So they can essentially position themselves to be one of the larger exporters, and they have a pretty robust economy. Like I said, it's the largest economy in South America. You have the United States, the UK, Australia, China. Those are big economies. Germany has a pretty robust economy for such a freaking small country. But once again, it's structure. So if Brazil were to reorganize themselves with their low-cost workforce, their positioning proximal to the United States, their influence in South America, they could definitely move themselves up in the world trade game. And I don't think they're that far off. It's just a few tweaks in policies, and this economy is going to be rocking and rolling for sure. All right, guys, that closes it out for this installment of Dirty Work. Remember, travel often, get out of your comfort zone so that you're able to reflect and be able to find, I guess, the best version of yourself, so that ultimately you're able to do the things that you want to do with your life, do the things that you love, and never be held back because you stayed within that comfort zone. Thank you very much for joining me in this installment of Dirty Work. If you're not already a subscriber to ENTP Life and you just stumbled upon this video, make sure you subscribe. I've been doing these episodes of the Daily Work. This is not my typical content. This is just 30 days of ranting. I missed the day yesterday, but 30 days of ranting. And me just kind of showing you what I think and exchanging with the people who take the time out to consume the content here. I appreciate those people. And it gives me a chance to get to know who they are and trade information. So if that's something that's interesting to you, make sure that you subscribe. Don't forget to like this video. I only have 7 likes, and I think there's been like 50 people who've come in and out of this. So if you're still here and you haven't liked already, make sure that you like and share this with whoever you think may find this information useful. Here at ENTP Life, we talk about a few things: real estate, business and entrepreneurship, and then whatever else, number 3, whatever else I'm interested in. That could be food, aviation, travel, alcohol, music, whatever. So if any of those things interest you, this is the channel for you. Be well and take care.